The Independent Commission for Infrastructure says an estimated 5 billion pesos in assets have been frozen with regard to the flood control anomalies. The ICI met with the Anti-Money Laundering Council and other government agencies on Thursday, October 16, in connection with the bid to recover stolen assets from allegedly anomalous infrastructure projects. Citing information from the Anti-Money Laundering Council, ICI Executive Director Brian Keith Hosaka says the 5 billion pesos in frozen assets is comprised of approximately 2,800 accounts. Hosaka adds that he does not have any data yet on the number of people linked to the frozen assets. When asked about the target amount of assets that the government would freeze, the ICI Executive Director says he can't say for sure because it's a moving target at present.
Yung gusto nating bawiin, hindi natin masasabi pa yan sa ngayon because it's a moving target right now. What I can share with you is a rough estimate according to AMLC that the amount of frozen accounts would be roughly around 5 billion. Comprising of around 2,800 accounts.
Representatives from the government agencies present assured the ICI of their cooperation. The agencies also vowed to help retrieve the money allegedly stolen from the public. When a bank account is frozen, all activity will be suspended. These include transfers, deposits, withdrawals, and even account closures. Banks are then required to comb through the accounts and review past transactions to determine whether they were used for illicit activity. Their findings are sent to the Anti-Money Laundering Council. Independent Commission for Infrastructure Chair Andres Reyes emphasizes that justice is not enough to address flood control project anomalies. The ICI held a meeting on Thursday, October 16 with 18 government agencies regarding asset retrieval from the flood control mess. In his opening statement, Reyes says restitution of corrupted assets must be secured.
All those persons responsible for this may be prosecuted and jailed. But to completely heal our nation, justice is not enough. We need restitution.
Reyes mentions the definition of the law on restitution, which is the act of making good or giving equivalent for any loss, damage, or injury and indemnification. According to Reyes, the meeting with agencies aims to advance the ICI's mandate to investigate and gather evidence on officials and individuals involved in irregularities in infrastructure projects. He adds that the ICI met with 18 agencies to pool their resources in recovering the assets of those involved in corruption of infrastructure projects.
That is our goal. These assets were purchased using public funds. They belong to the Filipino people. Money that could have been spent on building schools, hospitals, and road projects was instead burned wantonly on useless luxuries and vices. Let us work together. Let us recover what was stolen. Only then can our nation truly heal.
Representatives of the government agencies assure the ICI that they will cooperate and use their expertise in retrieving the money of the Filipino people. Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon says none of the undersecretaries of the Department of Public Works and Highways are connected to any contractors linked to the flood control controversy. Dizon is responding to allegations made by Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Leviste. In a press briefing on Thursday, October 16, Leviste said members of Dizon's team were allegedly meeting with contractors linked to the controversy.
Someone actually just told me before I arrived here now that not only did one person tell me that they heard that members of the team are actually contractors, that other members of the team have already been meeting with contractors outside of DPWH at may hinihingi na daw. Maybe Secretary Dizon can also check with all of his appointees who are the contractors, if any, that they have met since their appointment and what they discussed in those meetings. It's actually quite tragic because I know that so many people have so much hope for Secretary Dizon's leadership in the DPWH.
Later in a press conference also on Thursday, Dizon thanks Leviste for his candor and straightforwardness. Dizon says he will personally investigate the claims. The DPWH chief stresses that if needed, he will immediately remove the suspected officials and press charges.
He heard rumors or he heard some talk about it. But still, importanteng malaman ko yun, kaya nagpapasalamat ako sa kanyang mabilis na paglalabas nito sa ating mga kababayan at sa akin. Pero kung meron siyang specific, ang commitment ko sa kanya at sa lahat ng ating mga kababayan dahil na rin sa direktiba ng Pangulo na siguraduhin luminis na finally itong DPWH, tatanggalin ko po yung taong yun immediately. At kung kinakailangan, kakasuhan ko ba yung taong yun.
Dizon asks that Levista provide the names and circumstances to back his claims.
I will look forward to having a conversation with Congressman Levista on that. No, so very clear. No, hindi ko papalampasin yan kahit anong pa yan. Pero sa pagkakaalam ko, no, dito sa mga undersecretaries, no, na ating inaya, no, at hindi madaling mag-aya ng undersecretary sa DPWH sa panahong ito. No, wala sa kanilang contractor. Yun ang aking pagkakaalam. Pero ako po mismo, dahil sa report na ito, mag-iimbestiga na rin ako on my own about this. But I would really appreciate if Congressman Leviste could give me more specifics, if possible names, no, and circumstances.
Vice President Sara Duterte is asking how could President Bongbong Marcos be so confident at this point that the ongoing investigations into the flood control scandal won't eventually lead to him. In a media forum on Thursday, October 16, Duterte says the president should not be too sure that the flood control probes will not eventually point to him as investigations are still ongoing.
Sa ganitong ongoing pa yung investigation kuno at inquiry kuno, sobrang magtataka ka bakit confident yung Pangulo na hindi aabot sa Office of the President yung iskandalo at yung corruption.
In an interview on Wednesday, October 15, the president said he was confident that the probes would not ultimately lead to his office. Marcos argued that they did not do anything related to the scandal, which has sparked nationwide protests. However, he also said that they will follow the evidence wherever the investigation leads. For Duterte, this only means that Marcos might already have an idea of the outcome of the investigations.
So ibig sabihin, siguro alam na niya kung ano yung kalalabasan ng inquiry at ng investigasyon. Kasi wala namang iba sigurong explanation kung bakit napaka-confident mo sa mga mangyayari pa. Wala pa akong nahanap na tao na alam kung ano yung mangyayari bukas. Siya pa lang, si BBM pa lang.
The Vice President likewise expresses confidence that she and her office will not be implicated in the controversy.
Sigurado ako hindi aabot sa akin ang flood control scandal. Kasi unang-una, wala namang flood control projects sa OVP or sa Department of Education. At makakasabi naman talaga ang mga contractors and even si Secretary Bunuan, wala talaga akong at all project dyan sa DPWH.
Marcos previously said no one will be spared from the investigations into the anomalous flood control projects.